This is Group 1, and we have been working on a dress-up game titled Life of Passion Fashion. In our game, the player plays as an aspiring storekeeper who recently started their clothes retailing business. They must speak with customers, find different combinations of clothes to suit their demands, and restock their shop using the money they earned. In our original milestone, the major features we included were an inventory management system and an end-of-the-day shop session. Any items the player has acquired is sorted by category and displayed in their side panel. The inventory also displays what items are currently selected and how many of each item is left. In this milestone, we have added a much larger variety of items to our game. Our original inventory panel, which only allowed for displaying 6 items, had to be adjusted. Our new inventory uses a scroll rect to allow browsing through an infinite number of items, and when its slots aren't enough to fit all of the player's items, new rows of slots would be generated and arranged accordingly. Our larger number of items also made it necessary to adjust our shop. Our current shop has a brand new item sorting algorithm for determining what items would be displayed. More on this in our progressive item unlocking session.
For this milestone, our two major features are NPC encounters and progressive item unlocking. With our game being narrative focused, we added crucial NPCs that differ from regular daily customers. These NPCs have unique personalities and can be interacting with us in interesting ways. These characters' appearances are spread out across the player's first week, serving as important plot points. Charles is the recurring antagonist of this game. He runs a rival store whose business is hindered by the player, so he constantly attempts to put the player into difficult situations. Velma is a rookie fashion designer with quirky ideas. She tries to offer the player shoe designs to sell and serves as the introductory for our shoes category. When giving her shoes to customers, you would trigger special reactions as shoes are not yet on the official market. Lady Katrina is the final boss on day 5. She's a high-class, picky customer and a harsh critique. Charles brought her over wishing to ruin your store's reputation. Katrina has 3 distinct stages with different requests and high standards. Satisfying her lets the player progress to the next level of their career. All these NPCs serve to give the player agency in affecting the overarching plot and prompt the player to be more invested in the story. We wished for our game to have strong sense of progression, and we implemented an item unlocking system that mimics the growth of a real store. At the end of the day, the player unlocks a number of new items. The shop guarantees the inclusion of these items and labels them accordingly to incentivize the player to inspect and purchase them. Older items are randomly selected by the shop and may go out of cycle. As the player progresses through the game and make more money, they'd be able to buy more clothes with higher prices and quality. In order to meet the everlasting increase in customer demand, older items start to appear less impressive with their stats, and players must explore a large variety of items to prosper.
Throughout the process of making our game over the past 6 or so months, we have made many plans and decisions to put into our game to create the most ideal play experience for players and for us personally. However, due to our lack of time and manpower in certain areas of development, we've had to make a lot of cuts and adjustments to the features in our game, and as a result, despite all of this, we as a group have managed to add in 2 features that we feel are a core component of our game, and that is the currency system, which is a system where after you serve a customer, you get compensation for your services as you would in real life. And if you do extra well with the customer by going over their expectations in terms of clothing, you also get bonus money in the form of tips. This money that you get can be used to buy new clothing items to expand your shop and clothing possibilities for your customers. The second feature is customer interaction. Some customers will interact with each other and the player depending on certain conditions that are met in the game, such as messing up or doing well with a customer, and certain story elements as well.
Our vertical slice manages to show how the process of dressing up a client can feel different every time, and show the players how important interpreting the dialogue really is. A huge part of the game is interpreting and analyzing the possible clothing combos they can make while dressing the characters up. The game really shows the possibility of creating interesting levels by making clients important to the narrative, changing the types of clothing they need or the requirements they have for clothing, increasing the number of costumes they need, and unlocking different types of clothing as the player progresses further into the game. The players will be motivated to play through the different and more difficult challenges as the game progresses, to unlock new items and to see where the story will go. Our vertical slice shows the features we wanted to focus the most on, and it shows us how the game can grow going forward.